I ask you to rise as the Glendale High School NJROTC presents our colors, and then the Glendale High School Vocal Ensemble, will do the national anthem for us, and then I ask you to remain standing for a moment of silence to remember our troops, people who are serving us in our state, our nation, and our abroad.
Coming up, that's it, up, carry, cut, ready, cut, forward, march. Halt! Cut! Present! Out!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare of mercy gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order! Cut!
Choir, thank you very much.
Carry! Up! Ready! Cut! Out! Forward! March! Halt! Dismiss!
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. I'm Diane Douglas.
What about the Pledge of Allegiance?
We can do that.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. Normally we do that if we don't have to talk about our folks to tell us, but that's a great idea. Thank you. Please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that reminder, sir. I appreciate that. We're just a little bit different in our routine today. I'm Diane Douglas. I have the honor and privilege of serving you as Arizona Superintendent Superintendent of Public Instruction, and I'd like to begin by introducing my co-chairs who are joining me on the stage today, and let them just say a word or two of welcome. First, Representative Paul Boyer from LD20. He is the chairman of the House Education Committee, and Dr. Jennifer Johnson, who is my deputy superintendent at the Department of Education, but used to be the superintendent here at this district. So I'm very delighted that she's joining us today.
Yeah, real quick, because I know that we would hear from you, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm also in the classroom every morning. I teach 10th grade community letters, which is modern European history and literature on the same time period. And so I hear from parents all the time from my school. Just looking forward to hearing from you. So thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all very much. I know you had options about how you could spend your time this morning, and we're happy that you are with us so that we can gather some really rich information. Education and educating the 1.1 million children of Arizona is a shared responsibility. We appreciate your support, your help, your advice, and your involvement. Thank you.
I just briefly, with us, joining us today is Representative Andrade. I'm sorry, I just butchered that. Would you please stand and be recognized? Senator Casada, I'm used to when she was my representative. Representative Debbie Lesko is here, I believe. If there are any other state legislators in the room that I missed, you can have your opportunity for me to butcher your name also. Sorry. If there are any school board members in the audience, please stand to be recognized. Do we have any city council members? Please stand and be recognized. If there are any other elected officials that I've missed, please stand. Well, thank you all for being here. Just a few quick words to let you know how the reason for this event is all. As some of you may have known or remembered, when I campaigned, I was campaigning against the current direction of education in our state and the standards. I believe in higher standards for students. I can't change that. That comes from the governor, that comes from the legislature, that comes from the State Board of Ed. But what I can do is conduct these public hearings so that the parents and the classroom teachers who were not brought fully into the debate in the past can now have their time to have their say. What we will do is we will take back all that you've given us. We're going 7 stops, 14 locations across the state, and we will bring back the information. Some of it may go as recommendations to the State Board of Ed. Some of it may be recommendations to our legislature and our education committees for legislation that may be. Some of it may just help us do a better job for you at your Department of Education. So this is not about politics, past, present, or future. So if our legislators are here and would like to make comment, they're welcome to do so at the end, but we're not having any type of political speeches. This is all about hearing from you. If you ask a question, we will respond to it either on the website or at a later date, because we're not going to get into a back and forth dialogue. We want to hear from as many of you as possible so that your comments will be considered rhetorical at this point, but I guarantee you that we will come back with you for answers. The constraints today, it is about K-12 education. So it's not just about standards, it's about any issues that are on your mind as long as they pertain to K-12 education. We are not going to put a time limit on speaking like your school boards or your city councils where you get your just 2 or 3 minutes and then you're shut off. We ask that you be mindful that everybody here may want to make a comment. So we ask that your comments are brief and concise, but we're not going to have a buzzer shutting you off. Also, we ask, oftentimes at school board meetings or city council meetings, you will hear, if someone has already made your point, please don't come to the microphone and make it again. We ask that you do. Not that you reiterate the point necessarily, but you say that you agree or disagree, so we can kind of gauge your weight. As an issue comes up, does one person agree with it, do 5, do 10, or does the whole room think that that's a very valid point? So we'd like you to have that opportunity. And then just lastly, this is a 2-part tour. We're here today to listen to you with no predetermined outcomes, no message that we want to push out on you. Today, it is all about you and what you want to tell us, what you would like to tell the House Education Committee, what you'd like to tell ABE. But we will be back again in the fall. So what we will do between now and then is take all the comments, we will categorize them, if you will, and we'll see. Is it standards? Is it curriculum? Is it testing? Is it funding? Whatever it may be, and what actions or what recommendations can we make on your behalf? Then we'll come back out again in the fall and give you all the feedback from those comments and let you know this is what we believe we can do about this, that, or the other thing. With that, there's cards if you'd like to speak. You just need to fill out your name. There are also, I believe, forms available that if you choose not to come to the microphone to speak, that you can fill out a form and give us your feedback that way. And we don't have a screen today, but we do have, and you can just check with any of the staff that's here. If you prefer, you can make your comments online. You can call ABE. If you have friends that were or family that were unable to come today, you're more than welcome to pass that word along to them. And our comments up here will basically be if we have a point of clarification that we want to ask you, but otherwise this is your event. So with that, I have spoken long enough. I thank you all for being here, and we will begin the process. So I hope we have some cards to start with.
Good morning. I'm Terry Train. I'm also an educator here in Arizona, and I'm proud to be a facilitator to help with the meeting process this morning on behalf of Arizona citizens. I have a stack of cards that have been given to me. You have a microphone right down front here on this side. So if you have filled out a card, be prepared to kind of navigate that direction. And I'm going to read about 5 names so that you can start to position yourselves and move to that side of the auditorium in case anyone's seated over here. The first person up will be Patty Kennedy. Second person up, Stephen Chapman. Third person up, Tony Reynolds. And the fourth person, Kitty Kosmark. And the fifth person, Sherry Orahood. I think I have those pronunciations correct.
And I just ask, as you come to the mic, would you please repeat your name so I can jot it down for my notes? Thank you.
Patty Kennedy, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. My name is Patty Kennedy. In the interest of full disclosure, I am a board member of this very district, Glendale Union High School. However, I am speaking today only as a member of this community, and this is what I would like you to hear. District public schools are not failing. Our state is failing our public schools. This room is filled with teachers and administrators who work their hearts out every day to ensure that our students succeed, in spite of our government, state government's lack of support. For too long, we, the public, have let our voices be silent, but I'm confident, seeing how many people showed up today, that that is starting to change. In addition to being a safe and welcoming and encouraging place for our students to learn, our district public schools are the cornerstones of active, engaged, and vibrant communities. This is where our students, their friends, their families gather for a myriad of events, athletic as well as social and civic, as evidenced by this meeting here today. Arizona's district public schools need you to stand with us and be our voice at the legislature and with our governor. Please stand with us and help protect us from corporate raiders who want to make their profits on the backs of our children and our grandchildren. I am counting on you. Our educators are counting on you. Our parents and families are counting on you. But most of all, Arizona's children are counting on you. Thank you.
Good morning, Superintendent Douglas. My name is Stephen Chapman. I'm the president of the Tulsa Union High School District Governing Board. Just here representing myself. I do want to thank you for coming out to the communities this morning and for going around the state and visiting students, teachers, parents, school board members, and everybody really getting input. I think that's important. I want to ask you to really become our chief advocate for our public schools. We rely on your leadership every day down at the Capitol and working with our legislator, our governor, and all those that we face much opposition from year to year. We see declining budgets. We see mandates that don't work for our students. We need your help, and also to our House and Senate Education Committee. We need to make sure that meaningful legislation is coming out, and we need your support in doing that. We're down there every day as much as we can. ASBA has great representatives, but we need you down there leading and making sure that back bills don't go through that are going to hurt our students and going to hurt our teachers. Just again, we need your voice at the Capitol. We need your leadership. I think, as Ms. Kennedy said, we rely on you. We have many students and community members rely on you. My district has 10,600 kids that rely on me, and I rely on you to make sure that you're doing your job so that I can do my job in my district. My hope is that you continue these forums as you mentioned, and my hope is that you continue to engage with community members year long, and especially during the legislative process where we need you most. Thank you, and I hope you can really become a partner with our school board members and our communities and support our public schools. Thank you.
Superintendent Douglas, I'm Tony Reynolds. I am a retired educator after 30 years in education. I'm a grandmother of 5 wonderful children who will be coming into our system very soon. That's my concern, is that the future for our students is as bright as for my grandchildren as for anyone else. I thank you for this opportunity. I think it's important that you get public input, so thank you so much for doing that. I'm here in support of the Arizona College and Career Ready Standards, also known as the College Board. Because it's about providing opportunities for students. They were developed by state school officers, just as yourself, coming together to say, we want opportunities for all students in our United States of America, and that we think that it's important that a child is born and goes to school in Arizona, or is born and goes to school in Alaska or Alabama, that they have the same opportunity. And if those standards be high and rigorous and give kids the key to whatever they want to be when they grow up. I think that when you look at these standards, they're superior to the ones that they replaced when I really looked at them. And it's clear and focused. You know what is kindergarten, what needs to be added in first grade, what needs to be added in third grade, and it's developed in a way that's much more coherent. If you look at the math, it's got an emphasis on fluency and the math facts that they need to know, but as well as math thinking and math practices, and it will bring them to a higher level. Critics who I've talked to about this, many of my friends, when I ask them, have you looked at the standards? Oh, no, I don't want this book, or I don't want this thing. When I show them the standards, they're like, well, I don't object to that. No, they don't. And teachers, when they object to the standards, they have not been given resources or support or time in order to fully implement that. And our teachers need that. And that is not only just providing support to them, but it's a matter of money as well. They need to be given time to fully look at the standards and how they are implemented, and they need to be given resources. And they don't have those resources to do that. Also, review is good. I'm glad you're going to be reviewing these standards. I think there are some big questions out there for us to look at. Like, for instance, are reading foundations sufficiently developed for kindergarten through grade students? Is there an overemphasis on informational text, especially in the early grades? Those are big questions that need to be examined. The other thing that I'm concerned about is related to assessment. When these standards were developed, we were part of PARC. And that was to develop a test that we would be able to use across multi-states. And it's already been field tested. We decided to rename the standards, it's a career college ready, and we decided to go with our own test. So the burden of development and the burden of cost falls solely on Arizona now. And we aren't even able to use the results from the Arizona Merit Assessment until late in the fall. This is about kids. When we give an assessment, it should be about us being able to determine what to do with that student tomorrow in that classroom. So I encourage you to rethink the purpose of assessment. It's to help teachers understand what to do next and do the right thing instead of what's politically expedient. So in the end, it's important for us to focus on what really education is about, and that's providing opportunities for all students, including my very precious grandchildren. And to rather focus on political agenda and sound bites, we need to focus on children, and we need to devote the time and the money that it takes in order to do that. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. My name is Katie Casmerica. I am a proud retired elementary educator. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I would like to address the issue of our English language learners and their academic progress. Some are asking today in our state why our English language learners are not learning English at the rate we would like. Why are our English language learners not progressing academically? The fact is, our state has selected an educational model for English language learners which is flawed and flies in the face of language acquisition research of the past 30 years. The state of Arizona proposes the grouping of English language learners together in one classroom, and the only strong model of English in that classroom is the teacher. Kids learn language from each other, actively engaging and interacting. And the model Arizona has chosen denies English language learners access to their strong English-speaking peers during the important academic portion of the day. In addition, the teaching and learning of social studies and science needs to be closely examined. Currently, our teachers of English language learning students are encouraged to embed language concepts in social studies and science content. This is a very uphill battle and a very difficult battle. The teacher being the only strong speaker of English in the classroom. Strong English speakers are exceptional language teachers. They work hand in hand with the classroom teacher, but they have been removed and they have been placed in other classrooms. And second language learners cannot sit in small groups with them, conducting science experiments, or making timelines and drawing maps of the pioneer journey across the U.S. The children work as a team, as a language team. Strong English speakers and second language learners together. Sadly, the state of Arizona denies our children this opportunity, and it is inappropriate at best and discriminatory at worst. I would like to suggest that the current English language learning model supported by the state of Arizona be closely reviewed to reflect proven research and practice. Thank you.
I want to give the 5 next names so that you can prepare. Max Gosher, Kathy Kosian, Claire Van Steenan, Jane Geary, and Kathy Poplin. That will be our next 5. Go ahead.
My name is Sherry Orman. I am first and foremost a parent of 4 high school students here in Arizona, and I'm also a school psychologist here in Arizona. And I would like to speak on behalf of the Common Core standards. I was prompted to look further into the development of the Common Core standards, and we're seeing and reading a number of things in the media about where the Common Core standards have come from, and I'm concerned about the overreach. And so I reviewed the source material themselves, and as the previous speaker had mentioned, it did come directly from the National Governors Association, so it is a state-led program, and it was also developed in concert with the Council of Chief State School Officers. And so I'm confused, I'm concerned that there's a lot of talk about the federal mandates coming from Common Core, where I'm not seeing that when I look at the source material. Also, I did review the NAEP results, the assessment results that are given every 2 years nationwide, just to see how Arizona has been performing. And since the standards, have started to be implemented, looking year over year from 2011 to 2013 assessment results for the state of Arizona, Arizona's relative ranking compared to the states moved up 10 points, or moved up 10 states from 2011 to 2013. In 4th grade math. 8th grade, the results were not as good, but it is going to take longer since the standards were just implemented. It's going to take longer to see that achievement in the upper grades. So what I would implore for you is to review the source material. I am concerned about all of the talk, and I would like to make sure that we're all reviewing the actual documents and looking at the data that's available to us in order to make decisions that are important for our children. I think common standards are important. I moved here when I was 30 years ago as a 6th grader from the state of Indiana. At the time I moved here, my 6th grade cohorts were just learning how to write a research paper. When I came from Indiana, I had learned in 4th grade how to do that and wrote 3 research papers in 5th grade. Common standards are going to be helpful so that when we have students that move across state lines, they're going to have those foundational skills. My niece, before the standards were developed, moved from Arizona to Texas. And in 1st grade, when she went in, what my sister found was that she was missing some basic foundational skills in reading that her kindergarten cohorts in Texas had learned in kindergarten that we had not learned here in Arizona. So I think it is important for us to think about that. We have a very mobile society now. People are moving across state lines. We do need to have some kind of common framework so that our students don't fall behind, not because they're not learning, but because they have not been exposed to the appropriate grade level material when they move from state to state. Thank you.
Thank you. You can be sure to raise the microphone, and let's use our outdoor voices as opposed to necessarily the indoor voice so that our guests in the back can be sure to hear. So thank you. Thank you.
My name is Max Scott, and I'm the treasurer for the Coalition of Recall 9 Times. Superintendent Douglas, in your State of Education speech, you reported that the current state of education in Arizona is poor. You go on to say how Education Week ranked Arizona as 47th overall in education. how 60% of high school graduates entering our community college system require remedial education, and how only 19% of those who enter universities directly from high school graduate within 6 years. What you do not go on to state is how you recommend we fix this massive deficit in our education system. The ideal situation would be to implement successful strategies to improve education in Arizona, rather than the people of Arizona to recall you. Half the school year has gone by since you've been in office, and education has continued to decline. This is your opportunity to prove us wrong. We challenge you to listen to not just those who agree with you, but to those whose opinions conflict with your own. We will be anxiously awaiting the recommendations that you propose to the State Board of Education and the subsequent actions that you take. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
As loud as possible.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. My name is Kelly Hosian. I am here to represent several areas. I'm a mother, a grandmother. I have grandchildren in the public school system, and I'm very concerned. I'm very fortunate that my kids went to school in a different state, a state that really produced very good education. I'm very proud of that. I'm also here, I serve on several boards, political boards, and covered education. So I'm keeping a very close eye on what's happening in our state. I'm not pleased with what we have. I know that we're headed in the right direction with Common Core, but I also know we have a ways to go. As the lady stated a couple minutes ago, we do live in a mobile society. We also live in a global economy where we are competing against not only children from other states, but also children from different countries. And I think we need standards such as Common Core to ensure that students measure up with students from other states. And I also, and we need to realize that Common Core only sets the standards. They don't dictate how teachers teach students. That is up to the teachers, the board, but it just ensures that our students compare and are learning things that they need to as they progress through their education. And they need the freedom to do that. I recently visited the ALEC website, and yes, Arizona ranks 47th in education. Yet, they give the education policy a grade of a B-. I don't see how that is possible. How can you be 47 in the country and they give their policy a B-? That doesn't add up. Exactly. We need to reduce class sizes. We need to increase teacher salaries. Because it's these teachers that are helping shape the lives of our children, our grandchildren. And these teachers and our kids, they deserve better. We need to elevate Arizona's ranking in education. We need to fund our public schools. And we need to stop funding private schools and charter schools. And let's stop this race to the bottom. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Blair Van Steenmark. I am a son, a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather. I was educated in the public school system in California. They actually did do some things quite well there.
I want to remind everybody here, because I've heard this said so many times over this morning. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to say when I got up here, as I normally know when I do things like this. However, we do live in a transient society. We do move around a lot. But I'd like to remind everybody here, America's always lived in a transient, movable society. We started off on the East Coast and somehow managed to get all the way to California and west. It's nothing new. When I was a child, I traveled a lot to Iowa because that's where my parents were from. And I played with my cousins and other relatives there who were educated quite well. I believe I was educated quite well, quite honestly. I worked my way up from shining shoes and washing dishes to being the vice president of the marketing company, with clients like Walmart's and Costco's and Safeways and Kroger's and Fry's. And we handle billions and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business on an annual basis and have to negotiate contracts to do so. And this all came from a very, what I would call, standard education when I was educated back in the 50s and 60s. I might also add that if you really think about our educational system's history, we managed to land on the moon. We managed to win world wars. We managed to get a great number of ages and really well-educated people from all over this country who got educations and then came together and worked together. I do agree that teachers aren't paid enough. I have no problem with that. I also agree that far too much money is up here and not enough down here. It also gives us the rate of hiring lower qualified teachers at times, I don't insult anybody, than we should hire. I believe that's a management problem, and it's also a money problem. I submitted to the former Superintendent of Education, Mr. Rubenthal. I also talked to Mr. Orman, he was there. I do not understand why the state of Arizona cannot set up a system to do purchasing similar to that Walmart or Costco, where you do bulk buying for all schools. You would cut your costs from 10 to 50%, and I know this for a fact. We set the systems up at these corporations, save them hundreds of millions of dollars on buying, and thereby save customers hundreds of millions of dollars on purchasing, so they can buy more than, say, one shirt, where it used to be 12, 14, or $18, came down to 5. We had things that used to be 89 cents and came down to 49 cents retail because of bulk buying. You bulk buy, you bulk manufacture, your costs go down. It's just everyday business sense. I'd like to see some of the same sense apply to our system in this state. Unfortunately, politics, I believe, keeps that from happening. You have got more unified school systems in this state than I've ever seen anywhere. You've got, when I lived in Subsidy Festival, which was part of, what is it, Buckeye, the schools that were built out there were part of Wickenburg. It made no sense to me. It still doesn't. I think that's one thing that needs to be solved. This is consolidation of some of these districts. Because if you consolidate some districts, you also consolidate a whole lot of overhead. Then you can bring the cost down that way, bring some money into the classroom. As to the politics that people don't seem to like, unfortunately, our state is run well in politics. A lot of times I have a political talk show. I don't like some of the politics. I don't like the politics that have gone on since November. I don't like that many people I speak for that go to meetings like I still host and the show that I still do. Don't like the fact that we now have a governor who dictates who does what in this state as far as the Board of Education. Through SB 1469, he totally separated the board out from the superintendent of education having any authority over their employees, which means the people have no authority in that area because it's a totally appointed board by a governor. We don't vote for those people that are appointed. We have no say there. And by the way, constitutionally based, 2 of the members of that board are supposed to be lay people, which means outside of education, like a plumber, a janitor, a doctor, a lawyer, a carpenter, a baker, a gardener. I don't care. They're not. Everybody that sits on that board is appointed and has some type of education, and that's not right. We need to fix this system. I have no problem with standards to some degree. What I do have a problem with, or what most voters in the state have a problem with, parents have a problem with, is the fact that there's so much data collection going on. It's going to go on in this system. It's never a state business, whether I have a gun in my house, or whether I have a glass of wine with my dinner, or anything else that goes on inside my home, and ask my children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchild, any of those kinds of questions is totally out of line. It reminds me of what Adolf Hitler did. And that's what this is turning into, quite frankly. I want to see the Board of Education educate the children. I want to see children that are going to school today have the same opportunities I had. With a high school diploma, and I majored in business in high school, I elevated myself up to that. When grades did mean something, and teachers did instruct me, and I also had behavior standards set on me, And we need to get back to those things. Dr. Spock should be taken out and shot. Children need discipline. If they don't have discipline, which is part of instruction, they are chaotic. And what we have to do is look at Ferguson, look at Baltimore, look at Washington. I've been in riots, I've seen what they do, I've seen underprivileged kids, I've worked with them my whole life. I don't like to see a kid who had an opportunity to get educated that didn't get it because of some stupid things going on in the political politics. You need money in the classroom, no doubt. You need more money in the system, I don't think so. You just need to manage it better. It needs to be managed better. You can't pay everybody up here and everybody down here, and you can't keep buying a chair for $100 when it's only worth $12. You need to take control of the system in this state, and you need to take your educators and the people that we elect to office and fix this system. Call in some people from the private sector that understand business and fix the management part of this system. And then the educational part will take care of itself. Thank you for your time. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas, for giving us this opportunity to speak our opinions. My name is Jane Geary. I am a teacher in the Phoenix Union High School District and a parent of a high school sophomore in the Deer Valley School District. I support the Arizona College and Career Readiness Standards as a teacher and a parent. In my opinion, there is no need to tweak the standards for Arizona students. My daughter and my students may well attend college or be employed outside the state of Arizona. So why should they learn standards specific to Arizona? I would also ask the State Board of Education to give teachers and students direction as to what assessment will be in place in the coming years in Arizona. And finally, for high school students, the assessment should have some consequence attached to it so that we don't have 400 students walk out or not take the exam as happened in Chandler. Again, thank you for allowing us to speak our voice.
As you are approaching, again, I'll give our next group of names so you can prepare. Christy Bencomo, Jesus Rubalcaba, Lisa Fink, Lyle Tuttle, Joe Easy, and Deborah Rader will be our next speakers. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm Kathy Popland. I'm a retired educator after 42 years of a wonderful education career. I'm an Arizona native. I'm Arizona educated, and today I'm representing an association, the Arizona Technology and Education Association, and all of my comments are going to be through the lens of educational technology and how it is and can continue to help with the education of our kids. From my organization standpoint, we want to say stay the course with online assessment. Doesn't have to be AZ Merit, it doesn't have to be PARC, but we believe that focusing on an online assessment has done many good things in our schools. It's caused some pain points, and we know that, and it's going to continue until some of our issues are solved. But online assessment is how most of your professional licensures are given. Law is done that way. Nursing, many of even trade are doing online assessments. What is this doing for our schools? It's making our schools increase their broadband. And I know in the past 3 years, we have done quite a bit in that area. It also then increases the number of devices that are available for hopefully classroom use also. And it is preparing us to help our students be prepared for this high-tech world that they're entering. It has helped our schools become more 21st century focused. We're better off today than we were 3 years ago, but we do have a way to go. And so with the focus on online assessment, it has forced our schools to look at their funding and to buy and spend wisely. We also believe that with the increase of broadband and devices in the school, technology will become more of a mainstay in the instructional area. We believe in the Arizona College and Career Standards, many of them have a focus, a specific statement that through the use of technology or with the use of digital tools, they cannot be fully realized without good technology use in the classroom. And we believe that there are many models around the state. And I would encourage you not just to listen to the public, which I think is great, but make some concerted effort to go out and to find those uses of technology in our state that can become models for others. There are many out there. Emphasize that students having access to technology tools that they will use in the workplace while they're in school is critical. I've heard lots about we need to give our kids the best advantage. And our world has changed, and technology has been a big driver of that. The incorporating of a variety of technology skills and digital citizenship sooner than later will prepare our students for the 24/7 online world of today. I also would like to say what my organization and others like me could use from the department. We do need data. I know that lots of data was collected as our schools are getting ready for the online assessment. What would help organizations like mine and others is to know aggregate numbers. What are the current student to device ratio? Do we have one student for every 20 devices? Do we have 1 to 2? Where are we in our state? Because I think that will help us in our planning, in our programming for teachers. What is the broadband per student in our state? That data I know is collected. This information would be invaluable to us to know that. And then what are the types of technology in our schools? What's the percentage of laptops, tablets, cell phones, desktops? That will also give us an idea of how to build around instructional support. And then, what are the types? Are they, at one time we were nearly 80% Windows-based. How's that shifted? Where are the new technologies? And I think these are things that will help organizations that are working from the outside to support. Then working with legislatures, I think the department can be very helpful to craft legislation that will give a dedicated budget line item for technology in our schools. Arizona has not had that, to my knowledge. In the areas that they are able to buy it through soft capital, those pots have shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. I applaud the districts who have done incredible strides in increasing technology, but a dedicated funding stream would help with the instructional support of EdTech in the classroom, help teachers get through that, help the technical support of the increased bandwidth technology devices, refreshing of those devices, and increasing broadband. So a dedicated funding stream would be invaluable. When it comes to the standards, we say, look at them, find areas that they need improvement. But like others have stated, the vision of the Common Core with that twofold. It would help any teacher, wherever they were, to be able to have access to good lesson plans that just wasn't created by teachers in their state, but all over the United States. They can have access to more and more ideas. It's at the local level, that teacher level, where the local flavor can come in. I can tell you, no teacher takes a lesson plan and teaches it exactly like it says. The art of teaching is bringing in things that you know are pertinent to your students. Technology can be a game changer in the classroom. We would like you to continue to support it and not to take away those things that we know our kids need to have. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Johnson, Representative Williams. There. Superintendent Douglas, thank you for taking this time to listen to us and give us an opportunity that we've never had before in the state of Arizona.
Could you speak up just a little bit?
Yes, I'm
Thank you.
I'm Christy Benhol. I live in LD20. I have 5 children, grades 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. I also graduated from Arizona schools. From kindergarten through my bachelor's degree, I have
been educated by our school system. I graduated from NAU and I attended Glendale Community College, Phoenix College, I've attended our community colleges. I have personally been a student in every one of these situations. I think what woke me up the most to the state of education is one, having children, and two, I found my old homework from 5th grade. And I was looking it over. I purposely sent my son to a school that I felt was teaching above state standards. And my homework from 5th grade was far superior in expectations and in content quality than what my son was doing, which was supposedly better than what the regular schools were doing. And that's when I realized that it's up to parents to be involved in their students' education and to work with teachers and schools particularly. I am opposed to the Common Core as a program because it does take away local control from the parental level. And I say this because I also coach 2 soccer teams. They are ages 5 through 9. I talk to a lot of parents. Parents are struggling to help their children with homework. They feel confused by it because we're changing terminology. I have another friend whose son is a sophomore in high school. He takes his algebra class and his teachers all agree he can get the right answer. He cannot write it in the wording expected by the Common Core, therefore he must spend 8 weeks of his summer, by the way, we are paying for this, so that he can learn to write math problems the way the Common Core expects him to. This is the example problem. It is x plus 6 equals y. And instead of writing x plus 6 equals y, you must write an unknown variable plus 6 equals a set value. So he must spend 8 weeks learning to write this. His father is an engineer. His older brother is going to school to be an engineer, works in an engineering firm. They took these same problems to the engineers, and all the engineers got the problem wrong because they did not write an unknown variable plus 6 equals a set value. My particular problem with changing the wording in mathematics in these ways is when you progress to the higher branches in calculus, all of these equations suddenly are graphing, and those x and y values have x and y values, not graphing on an unknown variable line and a set value line. You're graphing on x and y and eventually z. So it is important the way we deliver education. And we are expecting these students to enter the workforce and work with people who are educated under the traditional systems. They won't be able to communicate with each other. I also have a personal story. I have a friend who attends a high school here in the West Valley as a freshman, and he wasn't at school the day. He was with his mother, and he returned to school and found out that a student had accused him of stealing a cell phone. Now, accusations can be made. The school decided to investigate. They never called his mother. They simply hauled this accused young man into a room with a police officer, and then they brought in the janitor, who's a very large man. I mean, what's a janitor got to do with an investigation except to be a large prison? And then they proceeded to interrogate him. He came home and told his mother, and she called the school and said, "Why didn't you call me?" They said, "Well, we don't need to." Well, suddenly her son, who had absolutely no evidence that he could have committed this crime, he wasn't in school at the time of the supposed theft. He had nobody to support him in his position, and his parents were never called. And now he has a record, a permanent record on his student that he's been accused of a theft. I feel that this is an unfair situation to put our students in. I represented Boyer 2 years ago. I brought to you a binder called Arizona Safe School. I asked you, why are we reporting on students' behaviors? It's grades 1 through 12 that the Department of Ed asks schools to report either bullying, hazing, theft, hate crimes, anything that were major crimes. Well, our school, my own children's elementary school, I was talking to the principal. She said she had been reporting. She hadn't had things to report to them. The Department of Ed then called her and said, "No school does not have any problems. You must report something."
Now, why is it that the Department of Ed believes that every school has theft, hazing, hate crimes? I'm a parent. We raise our children and we do our best to teach them to have good morals and good behavior. And nobody can tell me where these reports are going. Why are we collecting them? And to me as a parent, I have a limited view, I understand that, but it appears as if the schools are becoming a law enforcement agency, collecting records that actually, if there really was theft, it should go to the police, not the Department of Ed. Which leads me to my final area of concern, is the P20 data collection. I have visited the website for the quality data control. I've seen the 10 areas that they intend on tracking and why. My main question is, how many people of this current generation who are industry leaders, entrepreneurs, benefactors of society, how many of them made mistakes in high school? How many of them made mistakes in elementary school and rose above them? When we create these P20 tracking systems from very young ages all the way through college, if the child messes up, where do they recover? When we give access to workforce agencies and colleges, yes, the Quality Data Control website did say that these tracking systems are to help colleges determine whether or not students will be good fits or good candidates for their education. Why would we limit our children and not allow them to learn from their mistakes? And psychologists agree that when we make a mistake and then we correct it, we learn more than if we just kept getting things right all along. And I personally feel that we need to severely limit and end these types of tracking systems. It is true that employers and colleges do not like risk. They do not like personal interviews because you have to evaluate something on subjective values and then you have to take a risk to admit that person into your job or into your college. But we are infinite human beings. We don't fit into categories. We have infinite possibilities, and I think these P20 tracking systems definitely limit our possibilities. And if it is true that our behavior is being attached to these data systems, we are also leading the future of a great many students who could benefit society. Thank you.
Let's do a time check for the group as a whole. We're about 10:05. We're scheduled to conclude at 11:30. We have 22 additional cards that have come up in addition to our group in the aisle. So again, to honor everyone, to provide opportunity, microphone is all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Superintendent Douglas, Dr. Johnson, Superintendent Boyer. My name is Jesus Rubalcaba. I'm a school board member in the Hill Bend Unified School District, special education teacher in the Palo Verde Elementary School District, and president of the Arizona School Board Association. Before the legislative session started, I had the opportunity to speak with Superintendent Douglas, and I brought to her one of my major concerns that I had with K-12 education in the state, which was the teacher shortage problem. Legislative session is over, and I personally feel that this problem is only going to get worse. The budget, especially in small rural districts, doesn't allow for us to be able to compete for some of those teachers, which now, what used to be a problem in small and rural school districts with teacher shortage is no longer just a problem for those districts. It's now a problem that is statewide, and I will even go on to say that it's probably a nationwide issue. We need teachers. And the students that are in colleges and universities, they're not looking at the teaching profession as something that they want to get into. And we have to sit back and think about why that is. I will tell you that from my personal experience, I'm in debt for the rest of my life with student loans because I chose the path of being an educator. And if I can find another profession, maybe not as rewarding as teaching, but a profession that would help me get out of debt with my student loans, and feel like I'm being valued as a professional, I would most likely be able to stay in this profession, but I can tell you that a lot of our teachers don't feel like they are being valued as professionals. So as this issue gets bigger and bigger, I would like to ask what the State Board of Education is doing. And even our state legislators, what are they doing to tackle this issue? Because we won't have highly qualified teachers in the classroom. And what the State Board of Education did by extending the amount of days that a long-term sub can teach in the classroom does not help. It makes things worse. In Gila Bend, since the time I've been a school board member, we have never started the school year fully staffed with highly qualified teachers. Never since I've been a board member. And I can guarantee you that it won't happen in the near future because we don't have that budget capacity to raise the salary on the teachers. It's really difficult for boards to then have to decide, well, where do we shift money to make that a priority? And the problem is going to be the same for a lot of our districts. How do we get quality instruction in the classroom when we don't have the teachers to provide that instruction to our children? Thank you.
My name is Lisa Payne, and I am board president of First Academy Incorporated, it's a charter school. And also I am the mother of 6 kids, and they're ranged from grades 1 to freshman in college. So I have experience in various areas in that aspect. I want to let you know that I'm against Common Core. I believe that we talked about standards, but I believe it's the Common Core system of federalized education. It's not including standards, that's testing, data collection, student privacy, and accountability, and in regards to evaluations of teachers in school. And I will quickly go over just some of the things that I have some concerns with. In regards to the standards, with respect to math, the Common Core locks children into a delayed progression that fails to provide them a pathway to studies in science, technology, engineering, and math. As admitted by Professor Jason Zimbo, one of its lead authors, the Common Core fails to prepare students for admission to selected public and private universities. And according to James Milford of Stanford University, who served on the Common Core validation committee but rejected the final standards, the Common Core will leave American students at least 2 years behind their counterparts in the highest achieving nations by 8th grade, and the deficiency is even worse than high school. With respect to English language arts, Dr. Sandra Sassi, perhaps the country's most respected authority on K-12 English standards, criticizes the Common Core's empty skill set that weaken the basis of literary and cultural knowledge needed for authentic college coursework. It does this in part by dictating a reduction in the amount of classic fiction taught in English in favor of informational texts. The weight of evidence fails to support such a reduction, and in fact, support the contrary conclusion. Also, moreover, 300 nationwide child psychologists and psychiatrists have heavily criticized the standards as being age inappropriate for young children. In that regard, Dr. Carla Horns of the Yale, lost my spot here, of Yale, I guess I left that there. University, anyway, she stated that it will become, basically it will kill the learning environment for the young children at that age. And that it also will cause, and I will tell you, I've seen this with my first grade, we've brought home some stuff as well, that they just start crying. They don't understand because it is developing inappropriate. Now, in regards to the testing, the AZ Merit is not an Arizona test. It was bought and paid for, and the exact test, the SAGE test was Utah. And my concern in regards to testing is that, according to law and ethics, all tests must be validated. And now, Dr. Gary Johnson, who's for Utah, once again, I was asking and following through on the SAGE test, which is what my baby line is the AZ Merit test. stated that he had asked for validity reports. No validity reports were provided. And he states, he says, it became clear that even from his direct doctoral residency experience and from his academic training and assessment that no test of this kind had ever been devised in the history of clinical psychology. After 2 years of studying this issue, Dr. Thomas surmises that AIR has devised one of the most complex, accurate measures of personality characteristics ever made. Dr. Thompson believes that behavioral testing was AIR's contractual goal. As for the SAGE test academics, Dr. Thompson points out that barring independent peer-reviewed documentation, because we didn't go through any validity tests, it is not possible to honestly claim that the AZ Merit SAGE test measures what it claims to measure, academics, in a valid manner. Dr. Thompson puts it this way, there is no way that the AIR produced common core test measures academic achievement in a valid manner, in fact, probably does not measure academics at all. Next part is in regards to data collection. In December 2011, President Obama very quietly signed an executive order gutting IRCA and dramatically expanding the disclosure exceptions and authorizing increased sharing of personally identifiable information without addressing privacy safeguards and ignoring the congressional policy and specific mandates for student privacy. The Arizona Department of Ed is releasing personally identifiable information to external research partners. Third parties may submit a personally identifiable information data request from the Arizona Department of Education if they are seeking student-level data and/or personally identifiable information. The ADE also provides a handbook which accompanies the data request. It's titled Requesting Personally Identifiable Information or Data from the Arizona Department of Education. The instruction states any person or organization, including doctoral and master's degree candidates, universities, faculty, independent research, and so on, of any type, who wishes to use personally identifiable information of any type, must submit a data request packet. These requests are reviewed by the Data Request Review Board. The identities of the board members are not revealed. The board's quarterly meetings are not open to the public. As such, a parent or concerned citizen has no recourse to object to the practice. And as stated above, would likely have no idea information has ever been released. That is a great concern. And in addition, as a parent, there's been many concerns that they've articulated. Some of those concerns parents have chosen to opt out. However, this is we have seen schools threatened with expulsion, detentions, in other ways. And also even the Arizona Department of Education staff told the parent that when you put your child in a public school, that you have given up some of your parental rights. I find that important. And that is in violation of ARS 601 and 602, which states that the liberty of parents to direct the upbringing, education, healthcare, and mental health of their children is a fundamental right. And all parental rights are reserved to a parent or of a minor child without obstruction or interference from the state, any political subdivision of the state, or any other governmental entity or any other institution. In addition, the U.S. Supreme Court has continued to upheld this principle that parents have the fundamental right to direct the education and upbringing of their children. And basically, the court decided the child is not the mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his destiny have the right and the high duty to recognize and prepare for additional obligation. Some other Supreme Court decisions have upheld this, and in light of this extensive precedent, the due process clause of the 14th Amendment protects the fundamental right of parents to make decisions concerning the care and custody and control of their children. And lastly, I'm paraphrasing, but there's a quote from our founding fathers: in any nation, the education of the sovereign is to prepare them for kingly office. In a republic, the people are kings. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, support staff, we appreciate you. My name is Lyle, and I live in the Reichert School District. I have grandkids in school now, but not in the state. Here we are in beautiful Glendale, the home of Marty Robbins. It reminds me of the story of Hank Williams from Minnie Pearl. Hank Williams had some problems throughout his career. And at one point, he was particularly low. And he went to Minnie Pearl, and he said, you know, Minnie, he says, I just don't know. I don't know if I can continue. Minnie turned to him and she said, Hank, hang on. He says, there is an end. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel. And Hank said, well, you know, I'm not sure I can even see the light. Perhaps this morning we have an opportunity to find the light that's not at the end of the tunnel, but right in front of us. I hope so. I'd like to take an informal poll. This is a test, audience. Pay attention. It just requires you to raise your hand. I'm going to give you two numbers. And I want you to raise your hand when I ask the second time for the number. Which one you think is correct? Today, in the state of Arizona, is the funding per student across Arizona closer to $4,000 a year or $6,000 a year? Now, those of you that think it's closest to $4,000 a year, let's see the hand. Those of you who think it's closer to $6,000, raise your hand. Those of you who don't know, raise your hand. We got a lot of people that know that they don't vote. That's a problem. Madam Secretary, you have said, and I'm quoting, funding does not solve every problem, and money can be wasted. My approach is to first have an annual committee review unnecessary laws to reduce the administrative burdens. However, Arizona cannot have the education system we all want when we spend half the national average per child. Our education. You may not be clapping when we're done. Our educators, children, and parents have done a miraculous job with so few resources, but at some point we have to recognize that more funding must be allocated to K-12. Well, let's talk about this. I've talked to many people about how much money each student is getting every year, and people don't really know. It's evidenced right here in this room. How many of you think they get $12,000 a year? How about $2,000? What if I told you it was $9,813 a year? Would you believe that? That's the truth. That's the fact. Hold on. Do you want to talk for a moment? That money, that $9,318 per student per year, does not include money they receive, like money from outside activities, the Arizona tax credit revenue, nor any money left or willed to the school. It happens by teachers or people who think education is an answer, and many do, and they'll leave money when they die. Nor does it count the income or the interest on their money invested with the state treasurer. Now, you probably don't know this, but it's about $2 billion, that's with a B, $2 billion a year. Every year, at the end of the year, it's in the treasurer's office that he invests on behalf of the school. Don't trust me, go ask the state treasurer. About $2 billion every year. A little math, if you use it, I didn't use Common Core math, I'm not into that. I'm into the old basic stuff, 2 plus 2 is equal 4. If you have 25 students per room at $9,318 a piece, in each classroom we get $232,950. If we spend 60 cents out of every dollar in the classroom, what it should be at least, that means each classroom with 25 kids should get at least $137,770. The federal average money across the nation spent in the classroom is 62 cents. In Arizona, it's just a tad north of 53. What's wrong with this picture? We give them $1, 53 3/4 cents goes to the classroom. The other 47% of the money, where is it? Oh, somebody mentioned Windows, making advances. Why don't they use Linux? It replaces Windows, it's free, it's open source, it does everything Windows does. How much could they save if they switched to Linux? Not only could they save, but when they got kids using that instead of Microsoft, who, by the way, funded for Common Core, Bill Gates is no dummy, he didn't make his billions of dollars on nothing. If they use, this is just one thing, if they use Linux, like Germany, this country, more and more, Linux is in your cars and your TV, it's everywhere. So everything that Microsoft will, or Mac, and it's free. Did I mention it's free? How much do they spend on a license right there? I maintain that teachers just want to teach. And I think they do a fabulous job teaching our kids by and large. I started the school, there were like 7 kids in the school. I loved it because it was a one-room schoolhouse. And I got to watch all the lessons of the upper class. I loved it. We need to do some things like that, advancement. We need to teach and challenge kids, not babysit them. Teachers don't want to be babysitters. They want to be teachers. Give them the resources. Get that 60 cents of every dollar we give them for their use in the classroom. Not to hire another superintendent, assistant superintendent, this person, that person, all that administrative horse puppy. We have to have some, don't not that. But we got a lot too much. Thank you.
My name is Joe Busick. Superintendent Douglas, State Representative Boyer, Dr. Johnson. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. It's very important to be able to speak because education is a community effort. Always has, always will. The greatest honor anybody in this room or anywhere in this country can do is serve education. I spoke to the State Board of Education and I have the license plate that says EDU first, education first. Even though I am the only one that has it, it doesn't mean that 6.5 million people, 310 million people across this country can't say education first. When you put education first, you put your economy first. I studied economics, I studied labor economics at the University of Utah. I sent the 92 plus 10, as I affectionately call them. They are the highest ranking officials in the state of Arizona with regard to education. I sent them an email, why do we educate? In that email, I introduced myself at the level of slightly enlightened American citizen. I'm your education loyalist. I'm here to serve you the rest of my life. So I asked this room this question really quickly so we can get to the point about other people speak. Why do we have a military? You'll very quickly say to ensure our freedom and protect our country. If I ask that question, why do we educate? Oh my goodness, questions go all over the place. Why do we educate? It's just like why do we have a military? We educate to ensure our freedom and protect our country. I do appreciate everybody's opinions today, and that is the point of our country. That is the freedom that we have. We need to have these discussions. I'd like to share a point from you, and it's not to get people angered, it's to help a discussion. The Cato Institute is very well respected, and so you know the Koch brothers actually funded it. In this report, this education report, which I will send to the 92 plus 10, since 1972 to 2012, Arizona funded education with inflation factored at 42%, roughly 44% of inflation. If you add in the last couple of years, you've barely broken maybe 50%. If you add in the other monies,
That would be with the inflation factor being factored back in, all of that money, you might barely get it to 60%, which is the highest you've ever been. This is not about spending more. It's not about spending less. It's about investing the right amount. We built dams. We built a canal system. And oh, by the way, that canal system that brought this valley to life is the most expensive, best investment this state has ever received from the people of Arizona and the people of the United States. I want to share a few things for you as a suggestion. At the State Board of Education, the mission statement is to aggressively set policies and foster excellence in public education. At the State Board of Education for the charter schools, to improve public education in Arizona by sponsoring charter schools that provide quality education choice. We need to get everybody on the same page. So I will suggest to you, and I will suggest again, as I suggested on Monday, we educate our children to ensure the future of our country, our state, and our communities. It's a simple statement. Every school district, every school should be on the same page. I will segue to this. The prisons, private prisons, make a 40-year business plan, and they can get the state elected officials to give them a 40-year commitment. And I ask you to build a 10-year business plan, Superintendent Douglas, and let's get a 10-year commitment out of our state and all of our people. As Claire stated earlier, we have opportunities of efficiency. We're not here to waste money. We're here to invest it properly. We need to look at outside of the system. To look at companies like UPS and FedEx and Southwest Airlines. I'm not saying take them down into the classroom. I'm saying look at their best practices of what they've applied. I used to work for UPS for 10 years. And back in the late 80s, they had a choice to make. They could continue adding bodies to the system and go out of business. Or they could innovate, automate, streamline, and reduce. As Claire had mentioned, there are best practices out there. We have a massive state. I recognize the last person speaking and talking about all those averages, but those are simply averages. They're not telling the whole story. We need to drill deep into the scenario. And as one other person said, we need to look at what really makes the best education. There are students out in the rural areas that have teachers that are 1 to 15. There are children in some of these urban areas that have 1 to 35. I will end you with this. In the state of Florida, they made a bold investment. They passed a law that made sure that from K to 3rd, they would not allow a child to have more than a teacher or a child to have more than 18 kids in a classroom. It's the law. 4 through 8 is 22. And 9 through 12, it is 25. Now those specifically are to the most important things. They're not to every class, not the gym, not the art. They're to the English, the math, and the science. And by the way, I do go on vacation occasionally, and I did talk to several of them the last time I went and the time before. I asked one student, and I said, by the way, tell me, how did that experience go? He said, Joe, it was amazing. We had a classroom that didn't make, so they had to make another classroom of 11. And oh, by the way, I learned physics better than most kids did, and I beat the pants off of people from the Northeast in college. I took my very first class, and I moved better than them because my teacher could take the time to get in and not just be a person who's shuffling papers. I want teachers to be facilitators. I want them to inspire. I'm going to send you an email about my father. His name was Joseph Edward Goosen. Came from a small coal mining town. He invented some amazing things for our country and Bell Labs. When you see it, that's what you're looking for. You educate the point of excellence and never, ever back down. Because if you do back down, you get nothing. And those magical minds that Elon Tesla, if you grow them here, they will stay here, and you'll never, ever have to get a tax break. because they want to be here. They are Arizonans, they are Americans, and they want to take care of their community. My dad never left Pennsylvania very far away. He went to northern New Jersey, but by the way, with those inventions, he impacted the people of eastern Pennsylvania just as well. About less than the size of maybe half this state. So let's do it. Let's build the best education system in the world right here in Arizona, right now. It's going to take 10 to 20, maybe 30, 40 years. As I said, I'm your education warden, and this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. Thank you.
Our next group is Pam Likes, Sarah Smith, Brenda Bartles, Michael Beardsley, Kathy Cox, Kathy Neff. We, after that group, have an additional 11 cards that have been submitted. We are now within our last 60 minutes of the session this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. And I want you all to know I'm going to try to keep my remarks under 2 minutes.
Good.
My name is Deborah Rader. I am a mother of 4, a grandmother of 4. I was born and raised in Arizona. My children have been educated in Arizona. I have a granddaughter about to enter the system in Arizona. I also had the privilege to serve for 12 years on the local school board and work for 2 governors as we develop education policy in Arizona. I want to stand here today in support of the Arizona Career and College Ready Standards, and talk about the various reasons why states joined in this work. Many of them have been mentioned today, but mainly because of a mobile society, how we can compare how our children do in Arizona with other children across the United States, and not least, and I will refer to some of the superintendent's remarks earlier this morning, because of our military children in Arizona. Children who come into our state and we're leaving our state at different levels as they move across the country. The commanders of our military bases have come to the governor's office and said something has to be done to help our children, to encourage our enlisted men and our officers to want to be in Arizona. And this was part of the reason why Arizona joined into that work. I appreciate that you're doing these tours now. We did do them when we were reviewing and developing the standards. We walked around the state. We worked with teachers and parents and community members all around the state. They had an opportunity to review the standards, to comment on the standards well before they were adopted, long before they were adopted, I should say. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that Dr. Bill McCollum from the University of Arizona actually led the national mathematics team in developing mathematics standards. Arizona was at the table the entire way in developing and building the standards, I should say. So I want to make sure that that's perfectly clear. The other thing is when we talk about why students are not leaving our system prepared, AIMS was a temporary exit exam. Just to pass the AIMS test really meant you were probably only at about an 8th grade level. So it's important, that's why this work is so difficult for Arizona as we look to raise the standards and raise the bars for our students so that they can be competitive not only in the United States but worldwide. So with that, thank you very much.
My name is Pam Wright. I've been a mom for 24 years, and I've been a teacher for 21, and I've been a board member for 6. First of all, I want to thank you for doing this. I'm sorry, for doing this. But I speak for myself here. First, I want to thank you for doing this, for having this event. It's nice to feel like somebody wants to hear what people want to say. And I have to admit, I didn't do my homework and prepare to come to talk. I was just going to come to listen. But as I listened to everybody, I started jotting a bit of notes. So I apologize if I'm a little all over the place. Common Core is heavy on facts,
citing sources and evidence to support arguments. I hear a lot of talk about education, but so little of it is not supported by facts and sources. For example, Arizona is 47th in the nation in education. What does that mean? 47th in what? Funding, performance in math, performance in reading, teacher pay. What is it? 47th in what? And who said so? That's factored by whom? Too much money is spent on administration. According to whom? 10% on average in Arizona is spent on administration and education. 8% right here in the Glendale High School District. That includes superintendents and principals and superintendents' cabinets. To me, I don't really feel like that's a whole lot of money in the whole scheme of things. It's tough to find a good, quality superintendent in this state because people don't want to work for nothing, and people don't want to work for pennies. In order to have good quality people, you have to get paid, just like in any place you go. Excuse me. The per pupil spending. I hear all kinds of numbers thrown around. I heard it today. I looked it up while I was sitting in my seat. National Center, according to the National Center for Education, per pupil spending in Arizona is $7,382. That is well below the national average at $10,000. I feel like that's part of the problem that we have here, is that we all hear opinions, we read something on Facebook, our sister's friend's cousin is a teacher, so she knows, and this my best friend over here, and this and that. But we forget to actually do research and find multiple sources to support the information that we're learning. When I'm teaching my students, I teach reading. I insist, I had for into Common Core, way before Common Core. I feel like most reading language arts teachers ask their students to cite evidence from the text. And don't just say, well, this is the way it is. You have to support your facts that you're giving or that you're proposing. And I don't see a lot of that happening whenever people talk about education. I think that's part of the problem. Everyone has an opinion, but few do the research, the real research to learn more. And they want to fight. They want to butt heads. People don't agree, they just want to fight. They don't want to sit down and talk about it and find the real facts. Maybe it's important to remember that maybe there really is no one right answer. You know, just in my school, there are 4 reading teachers, and they all teach reading just a little bit differently. And guess what? None of our kids are suffering for it. I think they're growing from it. Kids are different, teachers are different. I'm trying to read my notes, I'm sorry. There's no one right answer for every child because every child is different. And I think we have to remember that. Everybody has a strong opinion, but there's all kinds of different kids. Just bullet points. Data is a lovely education buzzword that we hear all the time. But I feel like it's led to over-testing of our children. I feel like we've gone from schools to test administration facilities. Rigor. Look up rigor in the dictionary. Harsh, severe. Challenging, zone of proximal development, I'll go with that. But rigor. Unfunded mandates. People feel like education is fully funded and the teachers don't, we could pay teachers more. Look at this one, look at the mandates. No more new mandates until the ones that exist have been funded. Furthermore, we have extensive training for K-12 teachers. Every week, PLCs, week before school, summers, extensive training and evaluations on K-12 teachers. College teachers get 0 evaluations. There are no real standards
but they're telling us that we're not preparing our children for college. So I have a hard time with that as well. Teachers are whipping boys. 25% of the teachers at my school just this year are leaving. We're not retaining teachers. They're leaving. Corporate privatization leads to segregation, and it's happening all over the country. We need time for creativity. Our students need time for creativity. We keep comparing ourselves to China or Korea or Finland or Germany or all these other countries, but we're not them. We're America. And this is a country who's, look at our history. As somebody said, we put the first guy on the moon. We have entrepreneurs, we have scientists, but now, all this over-testing and data, and rigor, our kids are not handling microscopes. They're memorizing vocabulary in science. They're not playing with slides and microscopes and doing experiments hands-on. They are memorizing vocabulary. I'm going to sit down because I have 10 million more notes and I don't want to take away from it. So.
My name is Sarah Smith. I am
In the interest of trying to offer opportunity to everyone who's turned in a card, what I will do is watch my timer, and I'll just do this when you're at about 4.5 minutes. And if we've got time left at the end and someone wants to come up with an additional quick comment, but we do have about 10 cards beyond the group that's already in the aisle. So I'm not waiting just to say hi. I'm waiting to help. Go ahead.
Again, my name is Sarah Smith. I am a parent, and I am a school board member for the Glendale Elementary School District. And today I would like to just speak on some personal experiences that I've had and reiterate some of the things that some of the others have said. But I will start by saying that I do support Common Core standards. And the reason that I do is when I was a child, I did move from state to state. And I started here in Arizona as a young child, and as I moved to other states, I realized that our standards were not as rigorous or demanding as other states, and that we're a little bit behind some of our other states. And then I'm just going to go and let you know that I am a parent of 5 children. I have one in college, and I have one in high school, I have a middle schooler, and I have some elementary school children. And I do want you to know that I support Common Core for what I've seen. Now, what I see as a parent is I skipped my older 2 children in their grade because I didn't feel like that they were being challenged with the standards that we have. Now, I do not think that anymore. I have changed my opinion. Now, my youngest one, as I listen to her, I listen to what she has to say, especially about math and her understanding of number sentence and her understanding of the whole concept. And I really think that that is what's great about these standards, is that it's not just rote memorization, is that it's actually giving them a whole understanding. So that's what's good. Now, I will say that as a board member, I have heard and I have listened to the people in my community. And yes, they do not understand that Common Core and curriculum are different. These standards are good. It's the curriculum that they don't understand. And I think that as a community, I think we can do, especially in our areas, that we could go ahead and educate our parents a little bit more. And yes, parents do not understand the math that's being taught. And I can understand that frustration that they have. But I also feel that just because they don't understand it, it doesn't mean that it's not good. Because I can see it.
I see a lot of things, I see how funding is, and I would agree that funding is hard on the school system. That schools are given a lot of unfunded mandates, and it's very hard to train our teachers when you're required to do things. It's hard to have the money to have the technology and our bandwidth that we need, for our assessments that we have. Now, I do want to also say that I do agree that our teachers are overassessed and overvaluated. I do think that is true. But I also agree with assessments, because I want you to know that my college student has to take assessments in order to go to college. That's why you take your ACT and your SATs, and it prepares them. And that's what these standards are for, to prepare them to go to college. And if we can just minimize the amount of assessments and the high stakes that are there. But I also want to give you a personal story of our district. I think the assessments need to be adjusted to tell the story of some of our children. I'll tell you what, we have refugees that come into our district, and they're going to be assessed on understanding math. They don't even know how to use a restroom. And, really you need to have these assessments tell the whole story. So thank you for your time.
Good morning, my name is Brenda Bartels. I too am a governing board member right here in Glendale for the elementary school district, but most importantly, I'm a mom. I believe in assessment, but they need to be responsible, relevant, and with purpose. And I don't see that right now with our state testing. We don't get the information in a timely fashion to help our kids. It doesn't show the real picture in a high-poverty district such as ours. We have kids that come in that are 2, 3, or more years behind academically. Our goal is that the standards that we set for grade is what we want them to come out with. But we need something that will go far enough back to show the actual growth for these kids so they're not beat up with the results. But likewise, we need those tests to go forward as well. So our kids that are succeeding can see that they're growing and they're moving forward. That doesn't do that right now. We currently have a system in place that penalizes our entire education system and beats us up day after day. Tells our children they're not good enough, tells our teachers they're not good enough, tells our community their schools are not good enough. We need a system that is relevant, timely, and shows, like Ms. Smith stated, shows the real story behind our kids. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Michael Beardsley. I'm a former educator. Currently, I manage a program for a local nonprofit that places retired individuals in the classroom, like a teacher's aide. It's a free resource to 5 school districts that we partner with. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for creating this space. The debate in the political arena pits one side against each other, uses fear, is a problem focus, and very little listening goes on. And so I very much appreciate creating this opportunity to speak and to listen. In the area of school choice and per pupil spending has been brought up a lot and continues to be brought up. I am not privy to the information that our legislatures have when they make decisions, so I won't presume that they have money in their back pocket to instantly increase per pupil spending. I'm assuming, I believe the best about people, and I believe that information is gathered and decisions are made in best judgment. What is not being communicated is the compelling story. If school choice is best for Arizona, what is it doing to improve education and outcomes? If decisions are made about per pupil spending, rationale that's leading to positive outcomes, those things aren't being communicated to the community. And I get discouraged when our legislators are demonized and mocked for decisions that are made. But those
sentiments continue to be aired because people don't understand the reasoning behind decisions that are made. The other point that I wanted to make this morning is instead of having a problem focus, and it's easy to do because the problems are overwhelming, I'd like to mention a nonprofit, Expect More Arizona, that highlights excellence, stories of excellence. They've done 4 what they call excellence tours, where they highlight exceptional districts, schools, and programs across the state. And I think this is a better model for communicating what works. I think it would be bring a more hopeful perspective into the educational arena if this was done on the state level to highlight and reward excellence and help districts that want to replicate success stories in their districts, giving them extra support, making grants available to them, whatever they need. If you have administrators and school boards that want to make radical change, coming alongside them, coming behind them, and offering that kind of support to make those changes. Thank you.
Our next presenter is coming forward. We would also acknowledge 3 of our elected members in the audience that would like to share a few comments. Richard Andrade, Debbie Lesko, and Martin Casale. So we'll allow the time for that. And we also have Kathy Cox and Catherine Nett. So Kathy Cox, I believe, was first. So go ahead.
Hello, I am a retired teacher, a retired elementary principal, and a retired high school principal. And now I am a grandmother working with her grandson here in the valley on Common Core. And I've had a lot of issues with math, which I may get to in just a second. But one of the things that I wanted to say when I first became an elementary teacher, it was the time that school reform had just begun with No Child Left Behind. And I followed that all the way with Ames, all the way from elementary, all the way through high school. And here's what I saw. It was very difficult for the students to pass the test. And so the tests were rewritten again and again. Never did we just stop and say, wait, well, the kids aren't passing. Let's not give the test again next year and have them not pass again. Let's find demographic areas, demographic groups of students that we identify, and let's keep testing until we get the test right. And then there's another part, all teachers can tell you, the way the questions are asked is extremely important. And we have no way of knowing, educators can't even look at the test. They can't give you any feedback on the test. Well, I suggest that you have, and we're going to continue with the Common Core in Arizona Merit in the state, is to have a group of very committed people with integrity, teachers, classroom teachers with at least 8 to 10 years of teaching in a particular field, like math or the classroom, who says, these questions are not appropriately written for students. And finally, when you get the test itself right and the questions correct, then if you want to proceed and spend millions and millions of dollars testing all of our students, but don't waste that money, spend that money on paying teachers higher salaries, because that's what will make our state a lot better. Another thing along with, let's see, what was that? My other point going to be about the testing. I can't remember what, I have all these notes and now they have such a little time. Again, the other thing that amazed me was by the time I got to the high school, the seniors had to have the Ames test, they had to pass to get the diploma. And so what the legislature did, because this is very political, as you know, then the cut score was lowered and lowered and lowered. I think by the time I left and retired as a high school principal, I think the kids only had to get 40% right. Now, where's all the money that we spent on that? Where's the meaning of that? 40%? And for all I know, after I retired, it got lower. And now Common Core is coming along because this is so political, as you can see today. I predict that you're going to have to exact same thing happen with Common Core, and it's going to end up being meaningless, and you're going to spend all of this money. And I do not think we should use this kind of testing to evaluate teachers. It is not fair. It is not about, should not be about teacher accountability. It should be about student learning or anything at all. Now, is that all I have to say? No, it is not, but I'm going to. I am going to donate. Oh, I will say one more thing about it. Instead of giving the results of what the teacher's cohort or classroom, don't give those results. Look at what a child's score was when he came into the classroom. At the end of the year, look at that individual child's score. You will see kids improve. That will give such a big, to teachers, which is what they need. Congratulations. Look at how much these kids grew during the school year instead of just looking at a cohort and saying, oh my gosh, you're a terrible teacher. We're going to have to take measures to get rid of you, because that's not what this should be about.
Let me just briefly remind you, any of you who are making comments and you've mentioned that you have more you'd like to say, please use the forms. Please make sure that even though you might not get all those comments here, that you do leave them with us. They're very important. Thank you.
Good morning, Mrs. Douglas. Good morning, Dr. Johnson, Mr. Boyer. Thank you for this opportunity. I think this is a wonderful venue, a wonderful opportunity for us as citizens. I am on the Peoria School Board and on the Executive Committee of ASBA. I am a parent of a junior at Cactus High School, Cactus Progress, and so I'm speaking as a parent primarily today. I think one of the things you hear today is that there are a lot of people here appealing to you, to other legislators, to be genuine heroes for public education, for public district education. We're hungry for assistance, we're hungry for advocates, we're hungry for help. I'd like you to help us address some of the disconnect. So many of us have kids, love kids, work with kids, and we think about education solely in the context of little children. While that is a big part of it, indeed, most Arizonans we know don't have little children in school. Although all Arizonans are affected by the quality of the schools that we have in the state. We need to reframe the conversation and be talking about property values, crime rates in our communities, teen pregnancy rates, workforce development, tax base in our cohesive communities. The quality of schools affects all of those issues. We need to reframe the conversation in that public district schools are not an expense, they are an investment in teaching. I too, and my husband, we are taxpayers, and we want fiscal responsibility. But fiscal responsibility requires more than just cutting costs. Fiscal responsibility also means growing capacity for the future, developing and promoting innovation, and protecting the investments that we have already made. For example, the Common Core. I'm keeping this short. I want to compliment some of my colleagues, the ones in particular that are talking about the crisis in teacher recruitment and retention. I reiterate how important that is. I do support Arizona career and college standards. I am not afraid of federal overreach. This is the United States of America. And finally, I am strongly opposed to diverting public funds to private schools and private corporations.
Yes, come on down, our elected individuals that would like to take a few minutes, and I'll also provide a few additional names: Kara Delasante, Thomas Bush, Carl Goldberg, and Dave Law. Again, recognizing that we're coming to the end of our time. Yes.
Good morning, and thank you, Superintendent, Representative Boyer, and Ms. Johnson. I want to thank you for giving this opportunity for people to express a wide view of ranges of opinions and issues. I think it's very important, and I applaud you for that. I also applaud all the teachers and administrators here. I know that the vast majority of you care very much about the children in education, and you're very dedicated. The one thing I think all of us can agree on is that our goal is to improve education for our children. I don't think all of us agree on how to get there, but we do agree on that. I usually hear over and over a couple complaints. One of them is a complaint I often hear is that the school finance system is too complicated. Nobody understands it except a handful of people in the entire state. It's broken and it's unequitable. Some school districts get more money than other school districts for a variety of reasons. Sometimes I don't think that's fair. The other complaint is that there are too many mandates placed on our teachers so they can't focus on their job. I would like to invite everyone here, including the Arizona Department of Education and the teachers and administrators, to please contact me, and if you don't feel comfortable contacting me, contact your legislator with suggestions for legislation on how to fix these problems. Often, we hear just complaints, but you are the experts in this field, and I ask you for suggestions. Thank you.
I'm Representative Richard Roberts. Thank you to the panel members for participating in Albany 29. Welcome you once again. I am a state representative. I'm also a graduate from a high school, from a public school that has ran for office and actually won. Why did I run? I ran because I saw what was going on in our state, with our schools, with our education. In order for our state to grow, we have to make that investment in education. I've heard a lot of people, and I've heard you, and I've heard you talk about what we need to do. And I agree with you. We need to take care of our teachers. We need to invest more in the classrooms. We need to implement Common Core, because I was one of those students who moved from city to city, from state to state, because of the work that my father did. We have to have Common Core because, let's face it, our nation moves, not only here in the United States, but also internationally. We can't keep with the same thinking that we did in the past. We are bigger, we do more, we travel more. Education should be our #1 priority, not putting more money into for-profit private prisons. We are adding 3,000 more private prison beds instead of putting that money where it needs to go, back into K-12, back into community college, and back into our universities. Why? Because it is in my belief that in our state, we have students who are going to cure cancer. They're going to do something amazing. They're going to be prepared for the 21st century. Now, why do I take that cancer? Because it struck my family twice. I am a strong believer in our children, and the only way we're going to be able to make sure that they succeed in life is making sure that we put that money back into our classrooms, back into our children, back into our education. They deserve it. They work hard. And I can't tell you, I have listened to you, I have heard you, and believe me, I am that legislator that's going to take care of education.
Good morning, Superintendent Douglas, Representative
Boyer. I want to thank you first for conducting these hearings. I think this is a great move that you made to do this throughout the state. And I want to thank you especially for coming here to Glendale High School and here to District 29. And I think that's especially relevant because of the makeup of this district, of District 29. This district is a makeup of what the future of Arizona is going to look like. I say that because of the demographic that we represent here in this district. It is highly Latino, it is highly immigrant, it is highly Spanish speaking. These are the kids that are now being, modern day segregation effort that are in those yellow blocks. Those are our kids in our communities. These kids are also going to be the ones, like it or not, that are going to be leading our state in the future. And the numbers don't lie about who our children are in our state right now, how the population is going to change, and how the demographics are going to change. These are our kids. This is who we should be focusing on to ensure that we get the greatest return, and so that our state is able to be successful in the future. I ask you to take that perspective as you move forward throughout your tenure now as a superintendent, and really make that a daily focus of your effort, of your works there on board. This is more than just putting together a blue ribbon panel of advisors. This should be something that's a daily conversation with your staff, daily conversation with the rest of the members of the board. I am a member of this community. I grew up here. I spent most of my life living right here in this district. I'm a member of the Pendergast School District Governing Board, which is our neighboring district from the one we are in here. I've been on the board for 5 years, and I also serve as the state senator. I do want to take the time to thank not only you, Superintendent, but Representative Boyer and Senator Resto and Representative Andrade. It's good to have a bipartisan group of legislators here to hear all the words that are coming past the state. So I thank all of you for being here. In response to a couple of comments that we've heard today, I think we've seen some themes. We've heard some things from many of the speakers, and I think that it's something that I hope you'll take with you as we move forward. The over-politicization of the Common Core standards. This issue has been over-politicized, unfortunately, and there is a lot of misunderstanding about what those standards mean, what those standards are doing for our kids, and what those standards are doing for parents at home. I want to ask you to work with us as legislators to stop over-politicizing this issue. And let's focus on doing what's best for our kids and not focusing about the politics behind it and making this a federal versus a state rights issue. I think we've also heard pretty consistently that we do need better paid teachers, we need more resources in the classroom. We can argue on and on about what is the right amount of money that is needed in our classrooms, what is the right amount of money that needs to be invested, but we can all agree that the amount we have now is simply not enough. And that's true, we've seen that. Another theme that I heard tonight, and Superintendent, I would ask you, back to that point about more resources, to join us in that conversation, to have that conversation before the House and the Senate Appropriations Committees, before the Education Committees, and tell them that we do need more investment in our schools. And lastly, another thing that I think we've heard tonight is better management of our schools. We talked about some administration versus classroom funding. What we need there also is we need a better understanding of the community of what the differences is or are between classroom spending versus admin spending, what the importance of those spending, of that spending is, and what is an actual appropriate amount. We hear so often when I'm out talking to my constituents that we spend too much on admin, when in fact it's not actually the case. What actually is spending admin is stuff that directly impacts the classroom. And so that's something that we need to educate our community about, talk to them about what admin spending really is. And that's not to say that better management isn't needed. That's absolutely true. There are many school districts across the state. Not all of them are managing their money in the best way possible. But what we do need, and Superintendent can help us with that as well, is we need good board members. As hard as it is to find teachers, it's even harder to find board members that are going to ensure that money is spent in the right place and those district funds are managed accordingly. So in order for us to find those board members, we need to, as a state, change the direction of our conversation, prioritize public education, and make this a focus of our state government and saying that we are putting priority public education first, we are prioritizing it, we are investing in it, and we want you to do that to help us with that. I'm going to just a couple of different issues that weren't mentioned, and then I'll stop, and I'll just hit those real quickly, and not get into too much detail, but there are things that I think affect the schools of this community and the constituency of this community as well. As a state, I would want for you to advocate with us for more JTED and CTE program growth and improvement. Those are programs that our students are going into, that they don't want to take the traditional route often of going to community college university. We're going into a trade school, going into one of those other programs. Those are going to help our communities. Teacher recruitment and retention, we talked a lot about that, but it's absolutely true. As a board member, every year I've been on the board, I've seen more and more letters from teachers who are not only leaving our district, they are leaving the profession. And they are leaving so not because they are unhappy with the work they are doing, but they simply can't afford to do it anymore. And the letters say, I'm surprised this hasn't come up, but I would ask you to join us in the legislature in asking for a quick settlement of the inflation funding lawsuit. As often as we can, but eventually it's something we're going to have to come face to face with. We need to do it. Let's do it now. Let's get that money into the classroom. Lastly, I think that there's another issue. Last one that I'll bring up: solutions team funding. This is the funding for solutions teams that come into districts and help the schools that have the need or the equitable, help them get themselves back up to speed. We don't have funding in that. We don't have funding for that. The executive budget or the legislative budget hasn't asked for that funding. Those are the schools that need the most help. Those are the schools that serve a lot of times the most disadvantaged communities. And we should be advocating for those. That will provide more equity as well to public education. And again, Superintendent, thank you. Mr. Board, thank you.
That were called, and we're to the point where those 4 individuals would have roughly 3 minutes apiece. Again, the names Kira Del Sante, Thomas Bush, Carl Goldberg, Dave Block. Are any of those 4 still here? And we'll let you start. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kara Delasani. I am an English language arts teacher in the Glendale Union High School District, and that is also the high school district that I graduated from. I've experienced firsthand, I'd like to address first of all the Arizona College and Career Readiness standards, because I've experienced those standards on a daily basis firsthand. Now, I can only speak to the English language arts side of those standards. I avoid math as often as humanly possible. But I can speak from that experience when I say that these standards are not the problem. They challenge my students to perform and think critically and engage to a degree that they have never experienced before, and to a degree where they're rising to the occasion consistently. To just give a brief personal example, I'm watching my sophomores analyze rhetoric and do so in a way where they are really thinking critically about the messages coming into their own ears and into their own world, and really look at the quality of those messages and how they're being sent. They are growing and performing. Even my English language learners are able to do this in a way that is inspiring to me. These standards are preparing and serving our students and getting them ready for their lives beyond the high school classroom. It would be an immense disservice to them to scrap these standards and start again. Instead, I would propose and suggest that we apply one of the essential elements of instruction, and that's to monitor and adjust. That is something that I'm expected to do every day in my classroom. I think that it would be necessary to continue that at the state level, monitoring and adjusting these standards to see, are they working for our kids? What can we tweak? What can we adjust? Rather than starting over. I think that we need to ensure that what we're doing is best for our students in an immediate sense and from a long-term perspective. As previously stated, the current standards are not why Arizona schools are facing challenges. They're not the problem. The staggering lack of support for Arizona public schools and those who work there for those students is our biggest challenge right now. And it frightens me to see and to predict that ultimately our students are going to pay the price for this. Arizona education already faces enough obstacles as it is, and our students can't afford one more setback. It's not fair to them. And I believe, I'm wrapping that up, I promise. If you are truly committed to improving the Arizona education system, fund and invest into our students to the level that they deserve. Show your unadulterated support publicly and privately to those students and to their teachers and to the personnel who show up early and stay late every single day to ensure student success. Stop vilifying public education and give the standards themselves the longevity that they need and that they deserve to ensure their effectiveness. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dave Black. I appreciate you folks taking this opportunity to allow this venue. I worked in education for 15 years in various capacities. I've studied a lot of change model. And I look at it and think about college career ready standards. It's a work in progress, as in anything else. And I think that is the original intent of the organizations that work together to create that. So if you're looking at any of that, we're going to have definitely need to evolve and change, those as we see, get feedback on what's good and what's bad about that. Definitely have to have a work in progress. Our students are going to need to compete in the global marketplace. Our standards need to match that. I think college career ready standards are definitely a push in the right direction toward that. So thank you for that. And realizing that we do need to adhere and keep to those because of all the district money, the man hours, just the efforts that have been put into implement and change over into these standards now. We need to stick with that long enough to see some rewards from that with our students. A lot of people here have spoken about spending per pupil spending. Yeah, Arizona's 47th. You can top that around, and that doesn't do any good for that. We really need to actually stop and think about, other than the money that we're getting per pupil spending, what are the rewards that we're actually getting for that? Arizona's doing a pretty good job. I've always asked for an education. Where is, business model, they have a return on investment number. Where is that for education? We need something like that. So for Arizona to say, hey, we're getting $3,000 whatever per student, our students are doing pretty good for that money that we're getting. So we need something to compare to other students. I see that as a nationwide push. There's a fear of states, and Arizona, legislature, for better or worse, decided to go with the AZ merit. Obviously, so we can't compare apples to apples to the other states that are following, the Common Core standards. I wonder if we need something like that so we can actually truly compare states. I know there's other small tests out there to do that, but not on a level that we need. There, sometime to be able to do that. But, I'm excited with college career ready standards of years of being on textbook adoption committees. Finally, Arizona can have a textbook that matches up with the curriculum that we have, because we were always going for, states that drove textbook adoption. So thank you for holding this venue. Thank you.
Superintendent Douglas, first of all, I want to thank you very much for coming to listen to the public. I wish more elected officials did that. The comment that I want to make today is...
Could we have your names?
I'm sorry, Carl Goldberg.
Thank you.
I'm a former teacher and I'm also a public speaker on a rather controversial topic, which we'll mention in a moment. The topic that I'm going to be talking about is very much associated with the second goal of our school system, which we haven't heard much about today. The first goal, of course, is training our students in skills reading, writing, arithmetic, logic, and so on, in order to make them competent. The second goal of the school system is to train them to be educated citizens, not just high school graduates. Superintendent Douglas, when you were running for election, you and I had a discussion about the pernicious influence of the Muslim Brotherhood in our public schools, and about how our children, in fact, are being brainwashed to believe that Islam is just another religion like other religions, if not a little better, in fact, than Christianity and Judaism. The chapters on Islam, the textbooks that our children are using, are written by the Muslim Brotherhood propagandists, and their purpose is to prevent whole generations of young Americans from being able to deal with the threat to our American way of life from our Islamic enemies. When you and I discussed this, you understood that the nature of the problem, and you promised that if elected, you would do something about it, so that our high school graduates would have an understanding of Islam as an aggressive, supremacist, misogynist, imperialist, and totalitarian ideology, and not merely a religion, which is just what the Quran and the Islamic religious authorities say it is.
This is inappropriate.
It's not inappropriate. It has to do with our citizenship. Now we begin elect. Excuse me, I have a microphone at this moment. Please don't try to take away my freedom of speech. Now that you have been elected, we would like to know what steps you have taken and are planning to take to educate our teachers and our students about Islam and the Quran. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for the opportunity to come speak with you. My name is Eric Watts. I didn't put the last name on the front here, so. I'm not in the school system. I'm not a teacher. My mom is a teacher. My friends are teachers. I'm an engineer. I've been in aerospace for 10 years. So my questions are more around funding and a plan. I think there has been an overwhelming void in communication and direction coming from your organization. I'd like to know how you plan to rebuild the trust within the state and within the school system to get something done. I mean, I'll leave it at that. I think there's just been a real void and no direction. On the funding, with the funding constraints facing the current Arizona school system and your goal to repeal Common Core, how do you plan to support the current schools, the current teachers, and fund a new plan? I mean, the existing plan has funding constraints as it is. So where's this funding going to come from? And what is your plan to get there? Because just saying you're going to do something without a plan doesn't get us anywhere. In the engineering world, you have to have a plan, a direction, and a path to funding. Right now, I don't see any. Thank you.
To the end of our time this morning, I'd like to honor the citizens whose cards were received and ask from this group if there is any brief comment. We're down to just a very few minutes. Francisco Avalos, Whitney Shield, Kim Fisher, Michael McGarren, Alejandro Walker, Carolina Frosto, Stephanie Parra, Monica Martinez, and Etta McCoy. Those are the names that remain on cards. And again, honoring the fact that we have about 4 minutes. If you'd like to step and make perhaps one critical comment that you would like to share live in terms of the panel hearing it this morning. And then please be sure to give your name.
Francis Barros, Spencer. So America's been great for many generations, and we are curious why. And I just encourage us to remember why. And that's the people. The people who've been educated with the best education in the world. People who are motivated by the freedom to pursue their ideas. And that's what you're responsible for. You're responsible for my 2-year-old daughter and ensuring that she has a good education. Now I'm responsible for her and making sure that she's a good citizen, but I'm turning her over to you and educators to ensure that you're educating properly. so that she can get us to Mars, and so that she can get us there, and so we continue to be the great nation that we're supposed to be. It's our people that make us great, not our money, not our military might, it's our people. And the only way, you're serving such a critical role in your life, so I encourage you to do that. The second thing I wanted to say is just, we keep referring to teachers, and I think in another country, they refer to teachers as nation builders. And I think that's really a better term than teachers. They are building our nation every single day in the classroom. I just thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Michael McGowan. I'm a second-year teacher in the same district. I'm in Glendale Union, and so I'm very fortunate to be here. Thank you for putting this on. It's really great. So I think that something that is kind of like a misconception among people who actually aren't in education is that we can just keep paying teachers the same thing. We'll get the teachers, we'll have the teachers, but we're not retaining good teachers. I can barely afford to pay my bills. I'm a second-year teacher, and if I didn't love teaching as much as I did, I wouldn't still be here. But we're losing a lot of teachers because we'll have teachers. Teachers will take jobs, but they're not going to be good teachers. They're not going to stay, and that's kind of where a big disconnect is from, school districts here and school districts, whatever, overseas and even on the East Coast, that they have a much higher teacher retention than we do. My teacher movement in 5 years is immense here. Another thing is there needs to be more preparation on the state level because namely Ames, I'm a math teacher, I tutored Ames for 6 weeks, and then the Sunday, actually scratch that, the Monday we got back to school, when the test was supposed to be on Tuesday, it got canceled. So that's funding that we lost from what we paid to tutors, what we paid to have the test prepared, we had all that paper that went to waste because we did not do Ames. And so there just seems to be a lack of preparation. We find out we're doing AZ merit, and then there's a format on the test that we were not able to teach our kids because we didn't know that it was going to be on the test. So preparation, higher teacher pay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Fisher. I wasn't going to talk today, so I'm sure Paul and Diane are all kind of tired of getting things from me at this point, but I'll give you just two of my list and email you all the rest. I heard a lot about act like a business. One of the problems is we don't hire like a business. We advance teachers are awesome, but we advance them into the district office and eventually make them in all roles if they're not educated or trained. We need to hire HR professionals for HR. We need to hire business professionals and CPAs to run our business office, and we need to start hiring business leaders to run the district, and let our teachers teach. Our teachers advancing into the district office should be in our curriculum and instruction. It's the education they have, it's what they know. And they can guide the business people to run the business to best serve their teachers, to best educate our kids. Secondly, I've heard all these numbers out for student funding, and we get this much per student, that much per student. It's not the same even with equalization per school or per school district. And when it comes down to it, the fact is there's not an education out there for what school funding or school finance administration looks like. We need to educate our public and our legislators with exactly what happens with school funding. It's fine if you give me a pot of money, but then if you tell me where I have to spend it, I can't spend it anywhere else. And that is a major problem. People don't understand. I heard one of the comments talk about, that they get the tax dollars. Most of those tax dollars are put in auxiliary funds and they're spent for student activities. They don't go to the general fund, they don't pay teachers. But the public doesn't understand that, and our legislators don't understand it. And it's not that business officials don't understand it. Believe me, we understand it. My first job is the business department at BHU, and my second job board member for Deer Valley. Believe me, we understand it, and we're willing to teach you, we're willing to help you, and we're willing to figure it all out. Partner with ASBO, start learning, see the problems we have, and let us spend the funds where we need them, so we can pay our teachers more, because we need that. Thank you.
state your name. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Alejandra Walker. I'm a parent of 7 children and grandparent too. I have 1 child in the Glendale High School District, and I homeschool my other child who is in the 8th grade, who would be attending the Washington Elementary School District. He understands that. The reason I did not prepare in remarks, I heard many things, but I too was educated in Arizona in public school, and fortunate for myself in that I had a very small, locally controlled school board. The parents who served on that school board understood their role as the decision makers, not those being directed by superintendents and educators on how to educate our children. They understood what education was. They recognized that we needed to have basic skills and have a desire to learn and to advance our education. We were not clumped as a group, we were met individually. So those who had ability and needed more challenging work were challenged. Those who did not have ability were given the added help that they were needed, but they were grouped. Spanish was my first language. Both my parents are from Mexico. But we were taught in America to speak English. You must learn the language, you must learn the customs and culture of your country in which you reside. We've lost so much of that. And for my children, who are Americans, I want them to know their history. I want them to know their culture of America. Yes, we are a melting pot. But we need to recognize, I teach my children about their heritage, but they need to know their American culture. They need to speak English. Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Carr. I'm a governing board member with Phoenix Union High School District, but more importantly, I'm a member of the community here in Phoenix. And I am an Arizona native. I was born and raised in Yuma, Arizona. I'm a product of Arizona Public Schools, all the way through the university system, a graduate of ASU. And for me, I think prioritizing how K-12 speaks to higher education is important, because as a high school student, I graduated at the top of my class, and I got a full ride scholarship to Arizona State University, only to walk to have my first semester at Arizona State University where I almost lost my scholarship because I was so overwhelmed. Maybe not necessarily academically underprepared, but culturally underprepared. One of the things that I want to work on at Phoenix Union is how Phoenix Union speaks to the higher education system. So thinking through in your role, Superintendent Douglas, how you collaborate and partner with the Arizona Board of Regents and the larger education system here in Arizona. Specifically, I want to speak to the importance of prioritizing the success of Latino students in Arizona, because it is a growing demographic. Phoenix Union is a profile that demonstrates the future of Arizona. We are 27,000 students strong, with a pipeline from 13 partner elementary students of 135,000. And that Phoenix urban core is 81% Latino and 83% low income. That's the future of Arizona. And in Phoenix Union, we are on an upward climb because we've shifted our mindset from looking at Latino immigrant students as problems that need to be solved, but they are assets that need to be invested in. And that shift in that mindset and making sure that our students have an environment that is conducive to learning, that works for them, and that works for ensuring their success. That's why Phoenix Union is on an upward climb. That's why we're seeing success at higher rates than the state average. And I think that the larger state can learn really from the vision that we've set forward within our district, so that all students are prepared for success. I'll leave the rest of my notes, and thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you for your time. My name is Monica Martinez. Thank you, Superintendent Douglas. I am talking today as a parent, a special needs child. You will continue to hear the hardships that parents face when they pull programs, opportunity costs when funding is cut. I spent 7 years as a teacher in the Peoria Unified School District, ESL, mainstream. You are going to continue to hear the hardships that they face on your tour. But what I did not hear today is the focus on financial literacy. Everybody is talking about finance and how are we going to fund all these programs, but where is the financial literacy in our K-12 programs? We are preparing our children for college and career, but where is the conversation when we discuss retirement? Most recent Fidelity put out a study that in January 2014, the average retirement balance was $96,000. Vanguard put out a study in 2014, the average retirement balance is $114,000. Whether you're working for Google, a high paid job, or you're working logistics or custodial work, the employers offer benefits such as a retirement plan. And in my new career, I constantly see people uneducated with the opportunity costs when they want access to their retirement, cashing out and getting those penalties. Billions of dollars goes to the IRS because our general public is uneducated. Here's a chance where Arizona can step in, take the lead in financial literacy, and it's not just a high school program when they go in and get ready for a job. It's a K-12, it's a behavior change. You have to educate from kindergarten what economy is, what an opportunity costs, and how to save, and how to prepare, and how to plan. And this is something Arizona can focus on for their children in K-12. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your diligence and your professionalism as a public audience today. The commitment of citizens to come out and do this on a Saturday is vitally important to Arizona. I'll turn the microphone to our panel for any final comments before we close the meeting.
I just want to take a few minutes to thank the Glendale High School staff who came out on a Saturday to help make this possible. So thank you all very much. For those of you who don't know, you're sitting in one of the original buildings of a campus that holds the distinction of being the longest continuously inhabited high school in Arizona. They were a high school before Arizona was a state. So,
Yeah, I just real quickly, I know we're wrapping up here, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out on Saturday morning. Obviously, you care about education, you saw something, you're unique, you are passionate about education. I look forward to visiting with you afterwards, if anybody wants to chat with you one-on-one, and we'll talk to them. Thank you.
And I want to take the time to thank you all for coming. I want to thank my staff who has been here working diligently today, 3 previous events, and many more in the future. And I want to remind you that this is a 2-part process. We're here to hear you today, but we will be back in the fall to give you the feedback from all that we heard. I wanted to share with you, and I shared this at some of the other events, and I think once again we heard this loud and clearly today. When I first started on the Peoria School Board, I had the honor and privilege of serving that community for 8 years as a board member. And I went and I toured all our schools. And one of the schools I went to, I'll never forget, the principal came up and he kind of wagged his finger in my face and he said, "Young lady, I want you to remember one thing. When it comes to education, one size fits one." And I think that's what we've heard today, and I've heard at all the events. Our children are a gift to us, but they're not all the same, and they can't all fit in the same box. So I think that's the big challenge that we have ahead of us. How do we meet that? We'll be back in the fall, but I also intend to make this an annual process so that we will do the same thing next year, that we will come out to make sure that we hear from you how you want the education system in Arizona to serve the needs of you or your children. I thank you all for coming. I hope you have a very safe trip home. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and God bless. Thank you.